doing everything they talk about. You know I'm everything a boss about. Not putting work and gotta toss them.
Here we go. Week 6 picks and previews coming to you a day late, but it's all good. Nothing, we all got our own lives outside of this. So, Athletes Forum Podcast, thank you all for tuning in, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. This edition of Week 6 picks and previews, I'm bringing in a guest. I'm bringing in a guy that helped me get started on this visual type of work. The voice of the North, Mr. In your ears all the time. American football Finland, pro football Sweden, and that is the one and only Perfect Purvis. What's up, brother? How you doing?
It's good to be here, man. Good to be on somebody else's show. It's good not to be in charge. I'm excited to talk football with you, man, and see what we got popping in the ELF.
Absolutely, and this is coming from this is a guest media picker this week, and we're coming from a point of emphasis in terms of what's going on, up north and stuff like that. But we're gonna dive into obviously some of these games, get your quick thoughts, nothing too crazy. As we look at our slate here, when we talk about Week 6, excuse me, really a full slate of games. Only, I think, 1 or 2 teams on bye weeks. But we're gonna dive into this game a little bit, or these games. And the first one we have is, listen, this is a game we may not have to spend too much time on. Helvetic, at least the team I root for, hasn't been, the greatest this year. Isaiah Weed just got put on IR. They're bringing in Jordan Norwood. He was a receiver for the Panthers last year, played some quarterback. So I'm assuming he's coming in to play some quarterback as well this year, at least this week. They still got Keelan Cole, Milan Spiller. It's an offense that really hasn't gotten any production. Obviously, the last time, there was big news around the Helvetic mercenaries is what happened with DeMarco Artis in Madrid and the cheap shot situation. They're playing the Raiders, a team they have yet to beat since being in the ELF. Give me your quick thoughts on Raiders playing the Helvetic mercenaries.
I mean, I think it's pretty simple. I mean, you look at it and you're like, okay, the mercenaries haven't got any wins this year. They're having discipline issues with what happened with DeMarco Artis, and then you have injuries to your quarterback. You got all of these changes while you're trying to start something. It seems like they changed. Was it last year or this year? They changed to the mercenaries name in Switzerland. So they're still trying to build, and you're getting into this matchup where you don't look like you have a chance to win it. And I mean, it is what it is. Maybe they don't have a chance to win it. But when I look at this game, I say this is one of those are you gonna fight moments? This is a game that the Helvetic mercenaries can decide hey, we might not be as good as them. We might not be even ready for this game, but we are ELF caliber team, and they're gonna have to do more than just show up to beat us. And I think that's pretty much what I see going on this week. I see that we're going to be able to find out if the mercenaries are in it for the long haul, or is this a 1-year thing with this team? Or is this going to be a lot of changes coming after this? Because this is one of those situations where with all those changes, no one expects them to do anything. So as long as they do more than the average, they'll be fine. And, we can say, okay, they'll get it going later. And from the Raiders, obviously, don't fall into that trap. Don't let this team that is going through turmoil show up and catch you sleeping. And you got to hope that the Raiders come in there, do their business, and go about their next game.
Let me ask you this: some guys that we know, at least on the coaching staff with D coordinator Coach Wood and obviously Coach Horford, and obviously the Swiss season is coming to an end next month in July. Maybe they could bring some of the top Swiss talent at least back. We'll see, but can these guys do enough? It seems like they want to build this thing up.
Yeah.
And they want to provide some stability versus just, a constant circle of changing, especially with coaches. Can these guys build a foundation this year that next year they're not waiting to the Swiss League to be over? Next year they're competing. They already showed that they can recruit. The fact that you could get someone like an Aaron Jackson, a Keelan Cole, take Isaiah Wee from Cologne, DeMarco Artis, who very well of in Finland. So they already showed that they could recruit. But can they do enough to set a foundation this year to build on it heading into next season?
I think they can. I think that's one reason that I was saying this is one of those games where you just want to see if they can, fight as a team, because it really is going to show. if this team continues to fight and play well, whether they win or lose, it shows that they trust those coaches that are in charge. And like you said, they recruited decently all season. There was high hopes. They got a lot of big names out there, but the chemistry just hasn't come together on the field. And that's one of those things where people will say, okay, well, let's point at the coaching. I'm not going to go that route because I'm going to say that football is one of the few sports where chemistry is more important than talent a lot of times. And when you throw a team together, the chemistry isn't there right away. And we've seen this in the ELF. A lot of teams that have, showed up. You have the new franchises or the I forget the word they use for it. Expansion teams. There you go. The new expansion teams, a lot of times, is either, we come in, new expansion team, and boom, we're off to the races, like you have Nordic Storm this year, or it's a slow climb. We had the Battlana Dragons a couple years ago. The first couple years they were in, they were horrible. Then they made the playoff. That's the route that you can go. I think the Mercenaries are going about that route. They're saying, hey, we're going to build a foundation here with these guys, but it's going to take some bumps and bruises. And unfortunately, the way that the ELF is set up now, teams are kind of already have their foundations. So you're starting behind the 8-ball. And if you just say, hey, we'll just start again behind the 8-ball, you're just adding another year of, okay, we have to work through it. I don't think that's where they're going. I think that a lot of these players are responding well to the coaching, the organization, and they're finding their way. Again, this week, probably not going to get a win against the Raiders, but we're looking more to see what kind of fight is in this team in this matchup.
Absolutely, and it sounds like Perfect Purpose, who's looking to go perfect this week, is picking the Raiders for this matchup. Probably a good choice. Let's send it to
let me throw it out there.
Oh yeah.
The team I ever rooted for was the Swarco Raiders back when they had the big championship tournament, the Euro Bowl. Back when they had the Euro Bowl, the first team I saw play were the Swarco Raiders, and I've been a fan of them ever since. So that obviously has a little bit of to do with my pick. Is I'm definitely picking the team that I like the most, which is now Tyrol Raiders in the ELF.
Absolutely. So we spent a lot of time on this game, right? And dived a little deep, but we're going to the next one, which is a rematch. So to say, we got the Rhine Fire versus the Vienna Vikings, a team in Vienna that looks, top tier, unstoppable, unguardable. Barely beat Rhine. I think it was like 12-6 if I can remember correctly.
Yeah,
but put a whooping on the Raiders. Yeah, but put a whooping on the Raiders the following week. Fire, obviously, a lot of changes just coming into the season alone. Tom Sula, he was taking some time. Now he's officially gone. Ed Warner, the OC, and they were having a little issues offensively, is gone. They bring in Fred Armstrong, who was a guy that's familiar with the league, head coach, loves to run the ball, right? So I think they'll start to establish an identity. But I said this on the First Down Magazine show. I said the loser of Paris Fire was going to miss the playoffs. And not only did they lose, they got blown out. They got blown out. I think it was 31-6 that game. So talk to me at least your thoughts on Rhine Fire versus Vienna and who you got in this game.
I'll be honest with you. I'm 100% biased towards the team with all the Finnish players. Okay, I'm gonna keep it 100. I'm going with Vienna.
Shout out American football in Finland, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sticking with where I'm, from. I think Vienna has a really good thing going on there. They've been one of the stronger teams. Again, they still look like the strongest team in the league, probably going back to the championship. I don't want to give that away too early, who my championship pick is. But I think in this game, it's one of those games where I want to see the separation. Like you said, I think it was one touchdown difference last time.
Yeah.
But right now, at this point in the season, we're getting closer to the middle part where it gets like, who knows? This is when upsets happen. So for Vienna, I think for them is to go into this matchup thinking, okay, we have to separate ourselves from the pack, let people know that we're the best team. While Rhine Fire, again, it might come down to this being one of those games that either get you in or out of the playoffs. And with them changing coaches, obviously Fred Armstrong, great friend of mine. I love that guy. I think he's going to get them in the right position to play hard in this game. It'll be a close one. I think it'll be a lot closer, not closer than the last time maybe, but I do think it'll be more like a one score for either team. But I'm definitely going with the Vikings no matter what.
No, I hear you. I'm going fire in this one. I made that pick earlier. I think obviously who knows who even knows if Fred's coaching, this week, but a good friend of both of ours, and we know the type of coach that he is. But when I look at the Fire defense and like that's a unit that's been together for 3 seasons, I feel like they just got the mentality like we ain't going out like this. And if you want to make the playoffs,
Williams you got by himself could save the game for them. He could do that by himself from the cornerback position. So you never know. That's for sure.
You can't get swept in the series. You got to at least split it. So we'll see. Mm-hmm. We'll see what happens there. But perfect. Going with the team with the most finished players, and that is the Vienna Vikings. The next game we want to dive in. The next game we want to dive into is a matchup in a team that is really in your neck of the woods and in your neighborhood. And I'm talking about the Rostov Panthers and the Nordic Storm. Before you dive into this game, what are your thoughts on what Nordic has done so far as an organization, as a team, within what's going on up north? What are your quick thoughts on Nordic?
I think what the Nordic Storm has done is incredible because, like I said, Vienna has the Finnish pipeline. But for them having Danish and Swedish players come and contribute up there, and then bring in obviously Jadrian Clark, Glenn Tunga, and a couple other imports to level things out, it's impressive. Because I'll be honest, I didn't think it was going to matter much when the team was announced. We done all the behind the scenes, like, hey, they're going to get a team in Denmark, and people sending me messages like, hey, what do you think is going to happen? I'm like, I don't know, nothing. Probably just like everybody else. And then they got Jadrian and Tunga as the headliners for the team. And outside of like what you see on like the media side of it, because I think that's what a lot of people saw and were like, oh, it's going to be like this and that. I'm really impressed on the actual play of the team. Them being able to put it together, be consistent, and build that chemistry. Similar to what I was saying about the Mercenaries earlier, is I think that they started off, from the jump, like, hey, we're all in. And that comes from an organizational standpoint. One thing that I'm big on is, how imports and how players are treated. And I've heard nothing but great things about Nordic Storm. And that's one thing I thought was going to be crazy, because I was like, Swedish players are not going to go and play on this team because it's not going to look any better than what you have in the Super Series. And then all these guys that I was like, oh, they're not going to go. They went. And they've said nothing but great things about the organization. They're like, oh, it's a great system. It's a good setup. We love it here. We love it there. So for me, that means the organization is treating them right. And if you treat a team right in the Nordics, you go a long way. And, there's teams out here in like Finland, like you got like the Helsinki Roosters situation where you can win 6 or 7 championships. If you treat players and personnel the correct way, you can have success in the Nordics. Same thing in Sweden. You look at Karlstad Crusaders, you look at Stockholm Mean Machine. Both of those organizations have great history of treating players right, and then success follows. And that's what Nordic Storm has done. They're treating the players right, and after that, everything else just happens. If you treat players the way that they should be treated, they'll play for you. They'll give you their best, and you see it on the field. That's what they get every week from those guys.
Absolutely. Quick thoughts on the game. Give me your pick. And then I have another question for you to follow up.
I'm going to be biased and go with the Nordic Storm. I think all my picks are going to be biased this week. It is what it is. I'm going to go with Nordic Storm. They're undefeated. I got one major reason. I believe that any point in moment, if you have Jadrian Clark on your team, that you will have a chance to win that game. And they have him every week, it looks like. So they have a chance every week. So I'm definitely going with the Nordic Storm over the Panthers this week.
Absolutely. Hey, Jadrian Clark has thrown for almost,
like
1,000 something.
Like 1,200, something like that. It's
I
almost
think
300 a game.
Right? Yeah, 1,000 plus yards.
Yeah.
But the most impressive stat is 16 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Right. He's having right now statistically a better season than his MVP season. And he's doing it without his running mate, obviously Glenn Tunga, and he's sharing the rock with everyone. You're seeing Jacob Green, Simon Fonz, you're seeing like all these guys, get involved. Evan Almeida, he played well last week, so it'll be interesting to see how this team. And we thought they were going to get tested last week, but they didn't against Frankfurt. But we'll see how this team continues to move on. My last question to you.
Yeah.
And your true thoughts. I don't know if you heard anything. I don't know if you think it might happen, but I gotta ask because I feel like this has been floating around. Little breadcrumbs have been dropping a little bit lately, especially with the new TV deals and the investors that just came in. Like this league's gonna expand. Are we getting a team in Finland?
I'm not the person to ask. I'm not doing those type of deals, man. I don't think I'm the person to ask for that.
This is what I would say. If we got a team in Finland, I think it's a consideration. I don't know that for a fact. So I think it's a consideration based on how people are seeing.
We could talk about it. I think
you
could do that if you wanted.
Especially seeing what Nordic's doing. They're like, oh, there is talent up there, right? And it's not like they got like, the cities that are combined are only separated by whatever sea that is in a bridge. Like. It's real.
It's like a 30-minute train ride from Malmo to Copenhagen. I got lost a couple times. I was in Copenhagen and I thought I was in Malmo. I was in Malmo, thought I was in Copenhagen. And the train and public transportation from those two cities is the same. So you don't even know you left the country.
Yeah, and it's not like
there last year, and it was crazy.
And it's not like people from Stockholm are daily commuting to Copenhagen. That's like a 3-hour train or something like that, whatever. But what I'm saying is like with Finland, people are seeing what's going on up north. It's like, oh, what's another opportunity we could dive into? If they did dive into Finland, I personally feel like it would have to be Helsinki. Obviously, you have the homegrown, the numbers in regards to homegrown talent. It's an easy city to get to, and obviously you would know more than me. But am I off base with that, or do you see a team in Finland coming? Maybe what do you know or not? Do you see it potentially happening?
Honestly, from what I've seen in the last couple of years, basically since the ELF, it doesn't look like Finland is going that route. There's some things in the works that I won't speak on in terms of like the league and stuff going forward that I know that don't make me think that, an ELF team is the route that Finland wants to go. And the only reason I say that is because I really think that it's a different situation than what people think in Finland. I think there's two huge issues with trying to do an ELF team in Finland. The financial issue is a huge issue because unlike the Denmark and how they were able to kind of market that area and you could kind of supplant some players and then get the funding and stuff, the culture in Finland is much more adverse to the English language and the American culture, and that's what American football is. It's an American culture.
Yeah,
I think one reason that football does so well in Germany, if you take away the language of German, the German language, you're in the United States. Like once you learn the language and figure out how they work and stuff, like you're in a major like country like that, and there's not much difference. That's why the football, there's so many fans. You can get the sport to get exposure without everyone having to know exactly what it is. Similar to in the United States where you go to a football game, you might not know anything about football, but you go into the game and you're having a good time because it fits the culture. And I think you have to find places like that for that to work. Even when you go to places like Spain, even in Switzerland, certain areas, you can find that culture. Finland does not have that culture yet. Now, even in a place like Sweden, you can find that culture. There's a diverse population in that country that is open to that type of thing. And I'm not saying this in a bad way. If anybody from Finland is like, oh, man, you shouldn't know Finland. No, it's just say this as a person who's lived here for almost a decade now. Finland does things the Finnish way, and we like it. That is something that might not be conducive to bringing in a new team. And I think it's one of those
Yeah.
situations where I want to say this too, because I don't know if I ever had a chance to say it, but Finland football players better than Swedish and Danish. Yeah, I said it. Their
Hey,
homegrown players better
hey, pew,
from top to
pew,
bottom.
pew.
From top to bottom, Finland has better players. There's a reason that Maple League has been able to sustain itself throughout the ELF. You see a lot of leagues, their top
That's
talent
true.
is gone. And even with all those Finns going to Vienna, a lot of that has to do with being comfortable being around other Finns. It's pretty much the only reason they go. If you've done any football history, there's a large transfer of players from Sweden and Finland when they played in their top leagues, and a lot of times the Finnish players would go to where they knew other Finnish people,
Yeah.
and that's just kind of the only reason they would go. But the thing about the Finnish players, they always come back.
Yeah.
Almost every Finnish import player always comes back. Now these guys going to Vienna, some of them come back, some of them not coming back, but that's because it's a pipeline now.
Yeah.
And with that being said, most players in Finland end up playing in the top league against top imports. And when they look at other leagues, they're like, why would I go do that when, Finland, like I said, we like what we have going and
Yeah.
we enjoy it here. So there's no reason to necessarily leave. I think if you try to bring in an ELF team, it becomes this big monster. And again, not trying to be too negative, but it is what it is. ELF is about ELF. Like all the teams are teams, but it's all ELF, and you're a team in the ELF. Finland don't really rock like that. Like teams are very independent, and they like that. And you build those type of organizations. If you try to bring a team here, you would get kickback, I think, from
Yeah.
certain teams and organizations. Like people would legitimately be like, I'm not rocking with the ELF team because it's in Helsinki. And I'm from Vasa. Like I'm not messing with it. I'm from Seinäjoki. I'm not going all the way to Helsinki to play for that team. And there was something floated a couple years ago about, a similar situation to what the Nordic Storm does where you play in multiple locations in Finland for an ELF team. I think that again, that's the only way that it would work. But there'd be a lot of people that'd be like, no, I don't want to do it. Because
Yeah.
what's in it for us? What's in it for Finland to be a part of something else when Finland is comfortable and likes what it has? Like the
Yeah.
Maple League is one of the best leagues in Europe. And from top to bottom, if you look at players, competition, rules, efficiency, all that stuff is one of the best. Now, from terms of fans, exposure, media, it's not anything close to ELF. But again, in Finland, that's not what drives these players. That's not what drives the fans of the game. Like that's
Yeah.
not what moves the needle. So you'd be trying to force things that work elsewhere into here, and that has not worked for a lot of people trying to do things in Finland, myself included. Is you can't really force Finland to do something else. So I think
Absolutely.
I think if you were to do another Nordic team, you just go to Sweden. You go to Stockholm. I think
That,
Stockholm would be a better location. But I think that, again, I don't know the financials. The
yeah.
financials
Yeah.
is probably the biggest thing. From what I've heard before in the past is there was an attempt for a Stockholm-based team to get an ELF, and the financials, it was too much of a push. So the
Yeah.
team said, we're not going to put ourselves in debt to get in the ELF.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It'd be interesting
It's one
if
of those situations. Yeah.
it'd be interesting if they keep Nordic or split. Yeah. I mean, I think with the success, I think they'll probably end up keeping it, but
Yeah.
we'll
I mean,
see.
yeah.
We'll see. We'll see if the ELF eventually comes to Finland. But we're gonna wrap up these next couple of games. This one, easy one. Cologne, Serge. We don't gotta spend too much time on it, but Serge coming off a bye. Cologne can't defend the pass worth anything. Serge probably gonna play a long game. They get a lead similar to the Frankfurt game. They'll probably rest their starters. Thoughts? Who do you have? Probably know who you got picked, but who you got in the game?
Well, I'm going with the Serge. I don't know why I said Serge. I'm going with the Serge, but I don't know as much about these two teams. But I do know that I prefer the lightning bolt logo, so that way I can be biased towards the lightning bolt. I just think, with this team, what are they 3-1 now? and Cologne just hasn't looked good all season to me. I don't know if anybody else thinks maybe they have, a upset in them, but I think Serge is just kind of going to walk through this one. Fourth quarter, let's put in themselves, man.
No, absolutely. Serge will probably, definitely dominate this game again. Won't spend too much on it, but next game I want to talk about a team that is cool to play for versus a team that really hasn't looked the same since they lost their second ELF championship in year 2 versus the Vienna Vikings, and that is the Prague Lions coming off a bye week, pre-bye week, coming off a belt to butt type of whooping on the Russell Panthers. And Hamburg Sea Devils, they got their starting quarterback coming back, it looks like, this week, in Mike Leon. They're looking to bounce back coming off a belt to butt type of whooping versus the Fire. Two teams that are maybe trying to make a push for the wild card, but two teams that may be going in opposite directions. Who you got? What are your thoughts?
I feel like I'm picking two teams that are going to be towards the bottom no matter what. And right now it's really hard to tell which one of them could actually be good. So this is one of those games where it's like, well, somebody has to win.
Yeah,
I'm not really sure who. I'm gonna go with the Sea Devils, just because I think them being surrounded by controversy, finally getting their quarterback back, it's one of those situations where it's a perfect storm. They probably have a lot going on that people don't know. There's some things that are going to be able to do that we haven't seen yet. So it's kind of like a new team, and that might be just enough to give them an advantage in this. And I think that's what it'll be. It's like a slight advantage. They come out with a little something. Quarterback does things that you haven't seen because he hasn't been there. And boom, next thing you know, you're winning a game, getting a win and staying in the playoff picture.
Absolutely. And I think Prague coming off a bye week, coming off a big win, how did those guys handle success, especially all the love they've been getting? And, Hamburg Devils team that we kind of don't even know, like, what their full potential is without their quarterback. And they've been playing with Morris Mack the past couple of weeks, and obviously that hasn't looked the greatest. And we know about the Tagovailoa situation. So, we'll see how all that plays out. Next game, something we don't have to spend too much time on, but definitely one that's interesting. Munich versus the Berlin Thunder. This game is in Berlin. Munich looks good. I ain't even gonna lie to you. They do look talented. Berlin, I think they've yet to have a 100-yard rusher since Jock Crawford's been on the team. So
Wow.
We'll see how this plays out. But what are your quick initial thoughts before we get to the game of the week?
I'm definitely going with Munich in this one. Just looks like they have things figured out. They know who they are. You know what they're going to do, and they're going to do it. They're going to execute it. It looks like they have things figured out. While Berlin, like you said, haven't had a great running attack in a long time, but also just hasn't been consistent, in my opinion, this season. So it makes it hard to really root for them in this one. So I'm going to go with Munich.
Absolutely. And Kindrels, and he got those guys playing hard, and I think he's almost there in regards to forming a team that he had that second year in Hamburg, where it was, even to this day, the best statistical defense in the league. Unfortunately, they didn't get it done, but Munich does it good. All right, here we go. Game of the week. Two teams that desperately need a win. It's an in-conference matchup, in-division matchup. We got the Frankfurt Galaxy coming off a really bad loss and some food poisoning versus the Nordic Storm, a team that plays up and down to their competition, was really beating Paris in that first matchup until the fourth quarter, where Paris scored 24 unanswered points, almost came back and won the game. Frankfurt, they could win. This would be a surprise. They would have swept the series. Paris, a team that there's no team that's had a harder schedule since the beginning of the season. They've managed to go 2-2, playing the Fire twice, playing Frankfurt and the Serge. Again, almost beat Frankfurt in that first matchup. I think they just ran out of time. Just went on bye week. Does that bye week slow that offense down? They have a top 3 defense. Jack Del Rio is doing a great coaching job, at least, in his first season. Luke Del Rio, his son, and also the offensive coordinator. Seems like he's starting to get into rhythm a little bit with, calling his plays. Frankfurt, again, solid offensive line. Matt McKay is good. Matt McKay, Jalen Henderson is a fun upcoming rivalry in the league that a lot of people are excited to watch. So give me your pick and give me your overall thoughts on the game of the week.
I'm gonna go with my pick first. I'm gonna go with the Musketeers on this one. I think the time of the season lets us know what's going to happen. We're week 6. This is when teams know who they are. They figured out all the kinks. Last time these two teams played, like you said, coming for that ass at the end of the game and just ran out of time. And, they had a bye week, right? They had a bye week last week.
Yeah, Paris had a bye last week.
Yeah, so they had a bye week. What do you think they've been thinking about all bye week? Is like, let's not let that happen again. Let's never let that happen. We know we can get up on these guys. Now we've had an extra week to prepare. We've had a couple of weeks since we played them to get better as a team. And like you said, the coaching staff is gelling. Week 6, we've been month and a half of the season. This is usually when the cream rises right here.
Yeah.
This is when teams decide, like, there's no more, I'm going to catch you off guard, or, they're doing this and we weren't expecting it. The only thing that can really hurt a team now is, injuries. And if you're not dealing with injuries, then they know what you're going to do. You know what they're going to do, and you have to go out and play football. And right now, in my opinion, Paris looks like they're ready to play football.
Yeah.
Not to say that, Galaxy won't give them a run for their money. I do think it'll be a close game.
Yeah, I think I got Paris in this one too. I think once Paris gets past this game, it gets a little easier. And then you got 2 games versus Vienna and the Serge on that back end of the schedule. But you're done with the Fire. You split that series. You would be done with the Galaxy if you get a win. Paris can't lose for sure. Like if they get swept by Frankfurt, it's got to get a little interesting. Because right now, if you look at the playoffs, and right now Paris is on the outside, and Frankfurt is in that 6th spot. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But you are rocking with Paris in this game. And that's it, man. That's it. Those are the games we got. Appreciate you coming on, brother.
I appreciate it.
The voice of the North, the man in your ears, Mr. Perfect Purpose. Hey, man, where can let's give some love to your platform. Where can they find you?
You can catch me at American Football in Finland. Just type it in and we show up, baby. And then also you can catch me at Pro Football Sweden. So the Pro Football Sweden season, Super Series season is about to wrap up in about 2 weeks. So we have this weekend is actually midsummer in Finland and Sweden, so there's no games being played there. That's why I had the opportunity to come on this podcast and talk about ELF a little bit, because we have a weekend off anyways, no games. But if you want to, keep up with what's going on in Nordics, Pro Football Sweden or American Football in Finland or Perfect Purpose, I'm out here, man. All good.
Absolutely. And we'll see as our media guest picker this week. We'll see how he does in his pick. So thank you all for tuning in.
I'm probably going undefeated. I probably won.
Might go perfect. Subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think. This podcast works. We interact in the comment section. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see how it plays out week 6.